Question number 2, is it okay for men to pray while wearing a hat? For example, if they're driving a tractor. This had to come from rural Arkansas, right? 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 4. It's a valid question. 1 Corinthians 11 and verse 4, every man who prays or prophesies with his head covered dishonors his head. And so the question is, so if you pray with a hat, even while you're driving a tractor, is that sin? In order to answer the question, we've got to understand there are two basic interpretations of 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 1 through 16. Most of you would be already familiar with this. One is that the covering which Paul is discussing here is a literal covering of the head, like a veil, and that in the assembly a woman must wear a veil over her head. And again, there are many that believe that. It's a very common belief, especially in Alabama and other areas in the Deep South. We have members of this congregation who believe that, and I certainly respect that. And I respect the liberty of a woman to wear a veil if that's what she feels like she needs to do. I don't see 1 Corinthians 11 that way. And again, I know that some would disagree with me on that. When I look at 1 Corinthians chapter 11, and especially in verse 15 where Paul explicitly says that her hair is given to her for a covering, to me that kind of establishes what he's talking about. And I understand there's two different Greek words there, covering and veil, two different Greek words. I understand that. I see those as being synonymous terms used in the same context about the same thing. That and other references in the context to the length of hair, like shaved hair, shorn hair, short hair, long hair, and all of that leads me to believe that hair is the covering that's specifically under consideration. Sometimes the question is raised, and this was a very popular question back in the 60s and the 70s. If you were around at that time, you know that a lot of guys like to wear their hair very long at that time. And the question came up, is it sinful for a man to wear long hair? Well, this passage says that it is shameful for a man to have long hair, but what the passage does not do is answer how long is long and how short is short. It does say if a woman's hair is shaven or shorn, that would be shameful for her. And so we just don't really have an answer to that question. I would say, relatively speaking, a man's hair needs to be shorter than a woman's hair, and I'm okay leaving it at that. I've known Christians who wanted to define a man's hair as being too long if it touched his collar. Well, that's just making stuff up. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's just making stuff up. There is no passage in the New Testament that helps us to really define the length of hair. And so to answer the question, a man doesn't ever need to wear his hair so long that he might be confused for a woman. And that's true whether he's in the assembly, whether he's on a tractor, or whether he's watching Razorback football. And so that's the way I would answer that question. Again, I know that is open to conversation, open to debate, and we're not here to debate, just here to try to answer these questions as best I can.